I'm the
Wow.
first federal agent in government history ever to be charged with carrying a gun. Not only that, we found in the Capitol Code section where it says all duly appointed federal agents are allowed to carry their guns. If I was walking into the Capitol building that day, no J6, if I, as a federal agent, you walk in the Capitol building, you're going to walk up to a security checkpoint inside the building and you're going to say, hey, I'm a federal credentialed agent. They're going to say, there's no Secret Service here that day. There's no VIP or principal in the building. You're allowed to carry your weapon. Or they're going to say, please lock it up in a locker. Well, I never got to a locker. I never made it
Yeah.
inside the building. I couldn't go to a security checkpoint. So the fact that they charged me with carrying my gun is just beyond ludicrousy.
Hey, it's Lou Pimber. Welcome to Lou Pimber Speaks, author of the book Breaking Badly, My Post-Traumatic Success Story. If you read it, thank you. If you want a review, thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe today. Interesting guests today. You know, one of the many J6 people, the J6er. I know a J6er. When I met him, I put him in my contact. J6, right? Funny, but not funny, because this incident affected a lot of people. In particular, one person unique about his story. We'll get into that, but he's very unique, and I look forward to hearing his story. His name is Mark Ibrahim, and he's here with me today. Mark, welcome, Mark. I appreciate you being here with me today. Thank you, Mark. How you doing today, bud?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Right on, man. Now, you're here in Texas, somewhere in Dallas, somewhere.
I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I got a small ranch out here.
Nice. So I can't help but notice there's a big old rifle coming out the back of your head there. What's the story behind that rifle, bud?
Yeah, so that's a Henry Big Boy lever action 30-30, and that was like the first gun that I bought after all my charges were dismissed with prejudice. You know, having carried a gun the majority of my adult life for my jobs in the Army and as a federal agent, having your gun rights taken away from you is pretty shitty. And I almost felt naked without it. And so I wanted to make sure my gun rights were restored. So the day after my case was dismissed, I went and bought a gun. I got delayed. I guess they had to do their checks and balances, but that's the gun I bought the day after my case was dismissed. I had 3 or 4 years of not owning a gun to make up for.
So let's talk about it for a minute. You ready? So let's get into who is Mark Ibrahim. You have a brother and you have a sister, but your parents are originally from where?
Mi madre de Cuba. No, my mom's Cuban and my father is Egyptian. It's funny, I got labeled a white supremacist because of J6. And like I'm too confused to be a racist. Like I'm Latino, Egypt's in Africa, so I'm technically African American. But to everybody, the J6ers, insurrectionists, are just a bunch of white supremacists, alt-right people. But whatever.
Yeah, isn't that insane? Is that insane? The pot's calling the kettle's black, I guess, if that's even the appropriate term for that, right? So, Mark, you served our country in the military, obviously. So what's your story, man? What's your story? Let's go back to where you're from originally.
Yeah, well, my mom is Cuban. She escaped communist Cuba. My dad was Egyptian, Coptic, Orthodox Christian. He escaped religious persecution. They both came here. They met in Jersey, fell in love, and had 4 kids. My brother joined the Army, so I followed him into the Army. I was an officer. I did ROTC out of Georgetown. And then I did contracting for a little bit, was overseas a bunch. And my brother became an FBI agent. And so, you know, I saw the badge and gun and saw his continued service to our nation. I thought it was a good way to do it. So I didn't want to become an FBI agent because they're just a bunch of nerds that like to violate people's constitutional rights. So I went DEA. They're a little more kinetic, and also their training is a lot more defensive tactics and it's all shooting. So I thought the DEA was the right way to go. Also, the cartels are the largest human traffickers in the world, and I wanted to fight it. So, uh, also, fentanyl kills more Americans than any other topic. I mean, we've lost about 3,000 citizens to terrorism since 9/11 over 15 years ago, and we lose 120,000 U.S. citizens to opiate related deaths inside the United States. And it spans everybody from drug users to housewives to veterans to kids that are just out on the night having a good time. But fentanyl, it's really a pandemic, and it kills people dead pretty quickly. So I wanted to
Yeah.
fight that. I also didn't like the trafficking of children, and U.S. is the largest consumer of child sex or CSAM, and I think that's evil. And I think God's vocation on my life was to stand up for those who have no one to stand up for them and protect those who have no one to protect them. And I felt the DEA would be a good organization to do it at. So I joined the
Look,
DEA, and um, after my time overseas, and then while I was overseas, I worked with an FBI informant named Jorge Calcedilla, and he then came back to the States, started working white supremacy militia group stuff. He asked me to take him to the rally on January 6th because he knew I was a Fed and knew that I could be armed. And so he's like, I'm going to go in the building. And I go, if you go in the building, I'm going to arrest your ass if I see you again, or I'm going to leave you here. I'm not going to be complacent in your crime. Obviously, it's not right to go in the building. So,
let me stop you there for a second, because I think people need to know a little bit about you before what led up to January 6th. Okay, so you served in the military, and I believe it's military intelligence of some sort.
yeah, I was a grasshopper,
Yeah.
military
Military,
intelligence officer. Yeah, and I was with 20th Special Forces Group was my last unit.
got it.
And
And so
I speak Kurdish and Arabic and Spanish. So I
wow,
got used pretty good for my language skills. And
that's
it
good
was my
stuff.
pleasure. Like when ISIS killed the 21 Coptics in Libya, I volunteered to go over there and fight those guys. So, but yeah, I mean, I love my country. I love America, and I love what America stands for. And I just wanted to find my way to serve it. And my mom, being
Love,
escaping communist Cuba,
yeah,
she she instilled in us that these freedoms aren't free and that we have to serve our country in some way. So my older sister served in the Navy. My mom was in the Pentagon on 9/11. She was a
wow,
30-year Army civilian. My
wow,
sister was a Navy officer. My brother was an Army officer, and then I commissioned as an Army officer. Okay, Daddy's
that's
on the
incredible.
phone.
That's incredible. By the way, is it son or daughter?
Levi. This
Levi, your little
is my
son.
son Levi.
What's going on, kid? Welcome to the show, my man. Welcome to the show, buddy. So you come out in the military. That's a incredible story, but your mother, cubana, su padre de Egipto, and both of them understood what it's like to live under a regime, right? And so they they instilled in you the need to serve and to appreciate America for what it is. And so you come out of the military. Were you a DC cop for a while too? Is that my understanding?
I was D's cop for a hot minute. It's just not worth it.
And then from there you went to the DEA?
Well, I was contracting for various intelligence agencies. I was a green badger, and then yeah, and then I went DEA to continue my service to our nation.
Okay, got it. One of the things I learned about informants is you don't want to trust an informant. They're not really your friend. Even though they may seem the super nicest people in the world, you may have a lot in common with them, but there's a reason why they are where they're at in many cases, right? Most cases, I think. What happened that either you went with him or he went with you? How did that turn out? Or what happened?
So me and him were in Iraq together, and
Okay.
I've known him for a number of years. But he was I don't know if he was an informant in Iraq, but we were working counter ISIS stuff together, and we were rescuing Yazidi women. And then we were handing over that information to JSOC because these Yazidi women were living with ISIS. So they had their Facebooks and their social media presence, and they knew their families that are based inside the United States. And he's a veteran. He has a Silver Star commendation in Afghanistan. And so I didn't meet him in that role where I was an FBI, I was a federal agent, and he was an informant. But when he came back, he got into the FBI informant roles, mainly against white supremacy, extremism, whatever the FBI was peddling as a threat to America. And
I
so
see.
he infiltrated a bunch of these things. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to be at the January 6th rally." And I was like, "Okay, I'm a federal agent in Orange County, California." He goes, "Well, if you could be there, that'd be great." And, I felt that I could be of service that day. I mean, I'm armed. We're expected to be armed. I'm the first federal agent in government history to ever be charged with carrying their issued weapon. And so, he asked me to go there that day to help protect him. And I said, "Sure, whatever, dude. Like, me and you were in Iraq together." And then my brother, who is an FBI agent, a counterterrorism agent, who was in DC as well. So we all went together. So you had an FBI. My blood brother is an FBI CT agent, not anymore, but he was at the time credentialed FBI agent. I'm a credentialed DEA agent. We're both expected to carry our weapons on us. And I went with an FBI informant. And I asked him, I said, "Well, are you working?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, show me the tasking, the text message." So he pulled up a text message from an FBI agent that said, "Go and collect as much information as possible." I said, "Okay, that's good enough for me." And we walked around. I didn't go in the building. I didn't hurt anybody that day. We actually
Let me
offered our
pause you.
assistance to.
Let me pause you for a second. Covered a lot of ground there. So this informant is someone you knew from serving in Iraq, and he ended up back in the States somehow as an informant for the FBI. I get that. Was he acting in a quote unquote official capacity as an informant that day? Do you know?
I don't know if there's a term as official. Yeah, that's why I asked him if he was tasked, and I asked to see the text message. But that
Right.
term operating in official capacity is as an informant is kind of weird. I don't.
Right,
I've
right.
never
Was he
heard that, but you know what I mean.
was he working? Was he working that day
Yeah,
or
he was working, and he was going to get paid for his information, and that's why he wanted to
okay,
go in the build.
okay, got it. And who was he working for? Did he say to you?
The FBI. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is where it turns into like a soap opera, man. It gets like reality show right now. Your
I know
brother is
it's like a telenovela.
so your brother is there, your hermano is right there. He is an FBI agent. Was he acting in an official capacity that day? Was he there actively investigating?
I don't know. All I know is that the DOJ blocked out his photo from all my discovery, and they never blocked out anybody's photo and all of the anything that I've ever seen of J6.
Got it.
So I know that the DOJ was really careful to expose his role because my brother was texting a bunch of FBI agents in the crowd. The WFO SWAT team, so the FBI field office in DC is called the Washington field office. It's the WFO. They
Yeah.
mobilized their SWAT team, and I trained and knew some of the dudes there. So we walked up to them and we offered them assistance. People were hackling them and yelling them, saying that they're the Gestapo, and I calmed them down. I said, "These guys are good patriots. Leave them alone." Um, we shook hands. These guys on the team had my personal cell phone number. So I said, "Hey, man, if you need any help, we're here." My brother was texting other FBI agents in the crowd. And so, yeah, I mean, we offered assistance that day. I walked up to multiple Capitol police officers and offered them. I showed them my badge. I said, "Do you guys need any help?" And they're like, "No, we're good." I mean, again, I wasn't trying to insert myself and be a hero in a situation, but when there was chaos and mayhem, we're federal agents. We're supposed to act. Like if we witness a violent crime, like if you're going into a quickie mart and and it's getting robbed and you're a fed and you're just like, "All right, not my thing," you can be held accountable for that. You're expected to act,
Okay.
especially when there's violent crimes being committed or felonies being committed. So I wasn't
Okay.
trying to be like a hero, and that's why I didn't go in the building, guns drawn. I didn't arrest anybody that day. I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to assist uh, what seemed like a crazy situation.
You're trying to be a good witness, basically. Be a very good witness.
Well, us as federal agents have authority to make arrests, to carry weapons,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah, and give testimony. Yeah, we're
yeah,
cleared,
yeah,
we're trained. So I
yeah.
was just trying to help that day.
So okay, so you're trying to help. You're with your brother. You're not sure if your brother was officially working yet. The DOJ, blacks out his face, right? And he's with the
And
FBI,
didn't charge him with anything.
and then in charge with it. So in that case, when he said he's got other cops on his phone, why were there cops there to begin with? Was there was the FBI set up there because as a matter of routine? What was the reason why they were even set up? Was there people gathering? What was happening at the time?
In my personal opinion, it was another honeypot trap that they wanted to impeach Trump with, and they ramrodded the J6 thing, and they left overstepped their boundary. I mean, yeah, Trump admitted that there were 250 tasked undercover agents in the crowd that day. The ATF had a mobilized SWAT team there that day. The WFO had a mobilized SWAT team that day. It cost thousands of dollars to mobilize these units, and you turn down the National Guard, but you're going to mobilize the FBI SWAT team. And so I really would love to see like a Freedom of Information release on the intelligence that the FBI had to mobilize the FBI SWAT team there that day. Or Trump had really spoke and said there were 248 agents. I'd love to know who tasked them to be there and what was their specific job that day.
Right, right. For someone who wasn't there, I have that question. Why were there so many police there? What, who, who, who authorized it? I mean, you think it's President Donald Trump, but he was going to be on his way out. So someone had to authorize them there to be there. Why were they expecting problems? Why were they expecting?
Even to today, if people just need to understand the government in general, to this day, there's a thin red line over a deep blue state. There's a silent protests all over DOJ. Yeah, it's just people don't like Trump, don't like conservatism, don't like American values. And there's that's why the government people are so upset with Trump. And currently, they just don't understand the struggles that if everybody from like a GS9 to SESs are taking a silent protest against Trump, that are a bunch of former administration appointees that then work their way into SES positions or GS15 positions, they're just gonna they're digging their heels in. That's why Trump's having such a hard time getting anything done in the government.
Yeah, no, I
And
believe that. I
so,
believe that.
I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, it's a I can continue speaking about the day and my experience there, but I can't really talk to the deep blue state that our government is and the
I get it.
intrinsic
I get it.
existential threat our government is facing with it.
I get it. I get it. So let's move on from there. So you're there. You tell this guy, make sure you don't go in the building because otherwise that's going to be a problem, and you'll have to detain him or whatever the case may be. But apparently, he found pictures of you there hanging out. They even the FBI. I guess they took him from your phone or somebody's phone, and they're claiming that either you were aware of or were involved in the knocking down of some fences. But it's my understanding they were already knocked down when you got there. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the FBI informant there that day wanted to take photos of me, and he said, "Hey, let me see your badge and gun." And I was like, "Ah,
Yeah.
it's a little weird." And I was like, "Whatever, okay." So he took a picture of my badge and gun, and all the photos of me that day were given to the FBI from him. He couldn't go in and get the story, so he's extremely mad at me. So he then spun the story of a gun wielding white supremacist DEA agent in the crowd. FBI bought it hook sinker. He probably got paid out for it. And so that's what the way he went since he was very upset at me that day. His demeanor changed completely. We were close friends. We didn't talk after that really. And and then he was like, "Hey," he tried to extort me. He was like, "Give me $1,000 in crypto. Otherwise, I'm going to send the photos of you to the FBI." And I was like, "Bro, I'm a federal agent. One, that's extortion. And two, I don't have $100,000 in crypto. I don't know what you're smoking." But you're right. I mean, CIs are CIs. They're just shady people that are willing to betray people for a living, you know?
So you were ultimately charged. with 3 separate federal crimes, correct?
Couple. One was perjury, which got dismissed before Trump's executive order. One was, like making a false statement. One, which was the perjury. One was trespassing while armed, and then the other one was standing on or having an erection on January 6th. So I stood on a statue because I heard screams and I wanted to see if I could be of assistance. And it was just to give me a vantage point. You got to realize, like, grenades are being, like, flashbangs are being dropped into a crowd. People are running everywhere. There's tear gas everywhere. I got on that to get a better vantage point of see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I think one of two people in federal government history to ever be charged with it.
So, you know, you get that one person who says, "Why didn't you just go home?" You know? What do you say to that? What do you tell the citizen who just doesn't know and says, "Well, why didn't you just go home?" Or
Okay. So you were a TFO, right?
yes,
All right. Like, I'll give you walk into a bank, it's getting robbed. I tell you, hey, why didn't you just go home?
right.
Well, I mean, well,
Makes
you give me your answer. Why didn't you go? You have a fucking duty to do something, right?
right.
You have the and not only that, you can be held accountable for not doing anything.
Yeah.
We're expected to act. So that's why I didn't just go. And I did just go home after. I mean, I didn't stay there to the end of it, and I was like, whatever. I did go home when I realized we talked to the FBI SWAT team there that day. We offered our assistance to Capitol Police. My brother texted multiple FBI agents that day, and we realized that things were going. There's nothing we can really do. We did just go home that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That see, it's just this whole thing just seems so wrong on so many levels. I mean, one,
the biggest
there's
thing that's
your
the biggest
brother.
problem with J6 is that if you want to arrest somebody, even a drug dealer who you catch red-handed in a controlled buy or whatever, okay, you got to go to your boss. He's got to approve the arrest. You got to go to a DA. The DA says, "All right, it's a clean case. There's no fruits of a poisonous tree. The evidence was handled correctly." Then you got to go to a grand jury. And all these things are designed to protect the individual's constitutional rights, right?
Right.
If you want to get on a wire, it's a massive amount. It's like an 85-page affidavit, and it's got to be signed by a judge, right? And that's just, but with J6ers, the government wanted shock and awe, and I'm quoting a politician. They wanted this to be another 9/11, if you will, even though the only people who lost their lives there that day were killed by cops. And so it's like, it wasn't that, and they're trying to make it into something that it wasn't. There was over 1,000,000 people there that day, and I was armed. I flew back armed. If I'm some white supremacist domestic terrorist, don't you think I'd been able to kill at least one person that
Yeah.
day? I mean, I literally flew there armed. As federal agents, we fly armed. So I'm the
Yeah.
only armed individual on a plane there and back. If I'm a psychopath, like, don't you think that would be a opportunity to do something? But it's just bullshit. They wanted to turn this into something it's not. And the videos, if you go back, you can see the videos of Capitol Police opening doors for the shaman, the dude in the buffalo hat with the American
Yeah.
face painted. And they're open,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, this is a de-escalation attempt." And it's like, it's not like he was on a walkie-talkie with the ringleaders saying, "Oh, okay, they're letting me into this room. Calm down." He was just there. He's being paraded around. I mean, Judge Trevor McFadden dismissed a trespassing case because there was actually body cam footage of a Capitol Police officer standing by, and they asked, "Can we go in?" And he didn't answer, and he's standing there with an open door, and they
Saw
walked
that.
in. So that case got dismissed before Trump. But everybody,
Smart.
the thing is, like, if you raised your hand to defend yourself that day, you were charged with assault on a police officer.
Yeah.
If you said anything that they could convert into a lie, they would charge you with making a false statement. And then they offered me on my plea deal. They said, "Well, we're going to dismiss the gun charges, the trespassing, the standing on the the wall. You just plea to making a false statement. And I was like, well, I didn't lie. So I can't lie about lying to get myself off the hook. And what their false statement was they said, did you ever brandish your firearm that day? And I said, no, I didn't. And so then they took that photo, which is concealed carry, and they saw my rear sights, and they were like, that's brandishing. Well, no, that's not brandishing. And one, it's also not a crime. Like, if I ask you, in order to be charged with making a false statement to a federal agent, it has to be material to a crime. So if I ask you, are you gay? And you're like, no, I'm not gay. And then I seize your phone. I'm going through your phone. I see all these homosexual photos of you. Not saying that's you. I'm just giving an example, right? I can't
I'm never
charge you
gonna
with
give my
making
phone,
a
remember?
false, yeah, I can't charge you with making a false statement to a federal agent because being
Right,
gay is not a material evidence to any crime. Now, if
right,
I said, were you at this bank that you robbed that day? And you say no, and it shows up you were at that bank, then I can charge you for making a false statement because being at the bank is material. Whether or not my gun was seen at all that day is not material to any type of crime. My gun never left my holster. Now, brandishing is, hey, mother effer, do what I say, let me in this building. It's a very
right,
different brandishing, right? It's my understanding of brandishing. At least coming out of holster is brandishing,
right.
right? And no, there's a photo with my jacket opened to conceal it because this FBI agent asked to take a photo of my badge. So I said, okay. And then they were like, oh, we see your rear sights. You lied to us. Well, it's not material to any crime. Where I could walk open carry if I wanted to. I could literally have an AR strapped to my chest as a federal agent. It's perfectly legal.
No, let me
And
ask you this.
yeah,
I did read that affidavit. I did read what that agent from the Department of I forgot whatever department was that
it's
that
the
investigated.
DOJ IG's office, the Inspector
Yeah, I
General's
did.
office of the
Inspector
Department of Justice.
General's office. Yes, thank you. I did read it, and it was such a stretch where he says you were brandishing your badge and your gun, but I looked at the pictures and the pictures that he referenced, and that did not that does not add up. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Number two, firearm, position of a firearm on Capitol grounds, brother. It's pretty simple. You, as a credentialed DA agent, can do that, and you're by memo, you're allowed to do that. You're encouraged to carry, right, and take action, right, when needed. And then their last one was they claimed you stood uh, on a wall, on a structure, on an erected structure. You stood on it. Um, kind of a stretch. I mean, yes, there's a picture of you standing on one of the pillars, I think it is, but it makes
It's a
reasonable sense why
fountain.
you did that.
Yeah. I'll even do you one better. I'll actually, if I'm sure a lot of your guys that are watching this are law enforcement, so I can explain it to you. So it's like a constitutional right. If you get charged with a felony, the government has their due diligence to show mens rea, willful,
Right.
knowledgeable intent, right? Okay. So the government just left out the entire piece. Levi, no, no, thank you. The government just left out their entire piece of mens rea. So I wrote a petition for it to be dismissed. And then they wrote up a piece saying Mark brought his gun there that day to commit crimes. We're like, there's no proof of that. I'm a federal agent, and we're expected to carry a gun everywhere. So then we had the ruling on my dismissal case because they didn't add mens rea, and the judge said it was a strict liability crime, and he cited a case where an individual had a hand grenade, a not cleared, untrained individual that carried a
Wow.
hand grenade. So a strict liability crime means you don't need to have mens rea in it. And so he compared me as a federal agent, credentialed federal agent, carrying his
Trained,
gun to a
trained.
lunatic with a hand grenade and said that
Right.
the government didn't need mens rea. So again, I'm the
Um,
first federal agent in government history ever to be charged with carrying a gun. And not only that, we found in the Capitol Code section where it says all duly appointed federal agents are allowed to carry their guns. And even if I wasn't like whatever. If I was walking into the Capitol building that day, no J6, if I, as a federal agent, you walk in the Capitol building, you're going to walk up to a security checkpoint inside the building and you're going to say, hey, I'm a federal credentialed agent. They're going to say, there's no Secret Service here that day. There's no VIP or principal in the building. You're allowed to carry your weapon. Or they're going to say, please lock it up in a locker. Well, I never got to a locker. I never made it inside the building. I couldn't go to a security checkpoint. So the fact that they charged me with carrying my gun is just beyond ludicrousy. But again, it shows a point where like everybody from the arresting officer to the judges to the juries to everybody to Merrick Garland were convinced that we were domestic terrorists. And I was like their one armed, I think there was another armed guy there. I was like their one armed insurrectionist, which is a federal agent, and they took what they could get. And so they spun it up against you. I mean, the DOJ is not the Department of Justice, truthfully. It's extremely political and it's used as a weapon to weaponize. It's weaponized against everybody that doesn't fall in line and doesn't go by their rules. And so
Yeah.
I actually have a friend, Jared Wise. He's a former FBI agent who was charged with J6, had his case dismissed, and then now works at the weaponization group at DOJ trying to clean it up. And he's resigning because it's a joke. Nobody's doing anything.
Wow.
There's a judge, Vance Day. If you don't mind, I would go down this rabbit hole. There's a judge named Vance Day who refused to marry same-sex people in Oregon.
Yeah.
His son was showing a gun to a Navy SEAL that was a felon, and they weaponized the DOJ against him because he was constantly outspoken against this socialistic agenda, and they charged him with providing a firearm to a felon when he had nothing to do with anything. His son was like, hey, look at this gun, didn't hand it to the guy, and was like, look at this gun and put it away. And because his son wasn't the owner of the gun, they charged him with it, but they mobilized the DOJ against Vance Day. You can go look up his case, and he did an interview with Mike Huckabee. It's insane. I mean, and then they said, just plea to a misdemeanor, just plea to a misdemeanor. And he was like, no. And he fought it all the way through because he's a judge and he won. So it's crazy. I have friends that are Trump appointees that are decorated special operation veterans that were attacked strictly because they were Trump appointees and stood against the system.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. Mark, so this cost you your job. They threaten you with a 5 to 20-year sentence for or whatever the case is.
15 years. Yeah.
15 years. And so what ended up happening? Were you ever taken into custody, or were you just stripped of your job?
Yeah, so they basically what they wanted to do was keep me quiet. They gag ordered me and they sealed my discovery, and they're like, if you talk about this shit, about the fact that there were federal agents, that there were FBI informants, and my brother's an FBI agent, and there were multiple FBI agents in the crowd, that I would go to pretrial confinement and I'd be stuck in prison till my case. They offered me a plea deal, which was just plea to making a false statement. But the problem with that it said that they could enhance it to a terrorist enhancement. I've been blown
Wow.
up 3 times fighting terrorism in Iraq. I've committed my life to fighting terrorism and bad people. And the fact that they could enhance it, which they had for many J6ers, they did end up seeking the enhancement to a terrorist level, knowing what I know about the Patriot Act and how they can violate your rights even further. Taking a plea deal was completely off the table. And so I was like, F you. If you want to rate me, you can rate me, but I'm not going to be quiet about it. And that's what
Yeah.
America needs. America needs more patriots who are willing to put it all on the line and risk everything in order to fix this country. And until we have more patriots and cowards, we're doomed to fail. And I'm unfortunately witnessing the decline of the greatest nation ever to live on earth, you know?
Mark, those are good points. We need more patrons to step up and take the risks, just like our founding fathers did many, many, many years ago, several hundred years ago. Now, question for you before I forget: when you got there on the grounds, were you there when everything just kind of popped off? And when it popped off, was it like a certain group of people who just like it sounded like they were giving marching orders to go pop off and do something, or what it
You
looked
know,
like?
I was there when I rolled up and bombs were sound bombs and flashbangs were being thrown in the crowd. And I didn't see any of that. I mean, people I did see a lot of weird people there that day. Like most Trump supporters, like look at Charlie Kirk's death. This is a perfect example of the truth. They
Yeah,
murdered one of the most Christian conservative actors and speaking heads in American history. There wasn't one freaking riot. There wasn't one car bombed. There was set on fire. There were no vandalism. There was no nothing. There were peaceful prayer vigils throughout the nation. I will say this, the people that I saw that were being violent towards cops didn't look like conservatives. They had blue hair, they were weak bodied, they had victim weight, it's just they didn't fit the typical Trump
yeah,
supporter. And
yeah.
also I was there prior because I was like on winter break or winter leave or something. I was there prior and there was like a pre-protest and there was probably about 10,000 Trump supporters and there was probably like 50 Antifa. And the police, MP response team, and SWAT gear had their backs to 10,000 Trump supporters, and they were all facing the riot shields and batons towards 50 Antifa dudes because they know it's the Antifa dudes that are going to throw a piss bottle at them or sucker punch them or kick them. And then they turn their back to 10,000 peaceful protesters, had flags and all that stuff. So tell me if that makes
Right.
any sense to you.
Yeah, I get it. Get it.
Give me 1 second. Brother, I'm back.
There's a point, Mark, where I would be a bad person if I didn't bring this up. Where I believe Ashley Babbitt's body was taken out, right? And you were nearby. You saw that? Is that correct?
I did. I saw. So I can even do you one more than that. The Capitol Police, whether or not they were being controlled or told to stand down or whatever, they were psycho. They were just running around with their heads cut off. It was the FBI SWAT team, the WFO SWAT team, that finally shut down the building and kicked everybody out. The FBI SWAT team, a sniper and medic, is a good friend of mine. I'm not gonna share his name, but we trained before I was special agent. He was at my graduation at Quantico. I've known him for many years. Actually, his first name's Levi. I named my first son after his name. So he's a good dude. He's a great dude. One of the best men I know. So he was the WFO medic. So he was working on Ashley Babbitt, trying to resuscitate her, but she was already dead by the time he got to her. And I did see her body carried out like way outside of where they were taking her to the ambulance. I was near the ambulance and I saw her body going. And I met Aaron Babbitt and Ashley Babbitt's mother, and I told him this story that my buddy, the medic who was trying to save her life, was a former pastor, and he was praying for her while he was working on her.
Wow.
So there's it. It's just sad. And even like if you look at that shot, that the cop, I forget his name. His name's not even worth remembering. Who shot her was such
Yeah.
a coward. He was
I
aiming
saw the
for her
video.
head, and then he dipped the gun because he has no like muzzle control, and he shot her in the neck. And when he was asked by Don Lemon or some other liberalist agenda, yes, was she a threat for you were allowed to utilize the use of force against her, a lethal use of force? He couldn't even say yes. He said she was a threat to America. That's what it was
Right.
his answer. I
Right.
mean, like, you think about it, dude. She was a former security forces veteran. Dude, if you point a gun at me, I'm like, all right, man, whatever you need, I'm backing up. Like, whatever. The guy sucker shot her from a corner, and
But
you know,
in the video, there's a barrier between them two. There's a fence wall between the two. If you look up the video when the shooting happened, at least the one I saw, they have these safety walls that they pull out that are like a chain link wrought iron fence type of thing.
it was like a barricade of furniture or something, or yeah, it was like a
It
safety
was
wall. But yeah,
something.
he
Yeah, it
shot
was
her
something.
through that. So she
Yeah.
didn't even have the ability to have any level of harm towards him.
Right.
Now
It was
that's
a bad
debatable.
shoot.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was a bad shoot. Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
100%. And yet this guy's he's written a couple books and he's being
Yeah.
paraded around as a hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, we're trained to shoot center mass. We're never trained to shoot someone in the head, right? Like HRT and SRT, they might get special training for dudes wearing body armor, but we're trained to shoot center mass. He was
Right.
aiming at her head, and you can see him dip the gun as he pulls the trigger because he doesn't know how to shoot a gun, and he shot her in
Yeah.
the neck.
That was terrible, man. God bless her and her family. It's so disheartening.
And that's not the only person who died that day. Roseanne Boylan was killed. She was clubbed
That's
to
right.
death by a psychopathic female Capitol police officer who bludgeoned her to death.
I think there's a video of that, right? Is there a video somewhere of that, or that they get rid of it?
I don't know. I try not to watch this crap, man. It gets me
Because they
going.
punished the night of drug overdose.
Look, man, I have never broken the law in my life. I've always been an outstanding citizen. And it takes someone who's put cartels and ISIS and and child molesters in prison or to make sure that they can never do that harm again to anybody. And you take them and you throw them on the other side of the law. And then you're like, oh, you lied. Oh, you're a white supremacist. Oh, you're a domestic terrorist. And to just destroy a man's life because of political narrative, that needs to get prosecuted. That needs to be fixed.
Sure. So,
And the
Mark,
DOJ is just like a hub that protects itself. They're never going to
yeah.
admit the wrongdoings of judges. What's up, buddy?
So, Mark, in the
Yeah.
end, you lost your job. They threatened you with a 15-year sentence. And in the end, were you ever taken into custody at all?
I was, yeah. I was told I was actually at one of my Sunday school kids' wedding in Orlando Beach. He got some girl pregnant and he was going to have an abortion. And I was like, dude, just marry her. And I promise you 6 months from now, you'll be happier than you've ever been. He married her. They have like 3 kids now. He's super happy. I was at his wedding because I told him to marry her. And I got a phone call from my attorney. Hey, you were indicted. You need to self surrender now. And I go, well,
Wow.
I'm like, I'm in Orlando. I can self surrender at the WFO later on. And they were like, no, you need to surrender now. And I was like, all right, man, I'm at a wedding, dude. Like, fuck you, come get me. But I'll self surrender on Monday because I can't just drop everything. If you want to come get me, come get me. Otherwise, I'm
Yeah.
gonna self surrender on my terms. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, if you fly home, you're gonna be picked up in the system, and the U.S. Marshals are gonna arrest you. I was like, dude, yeah, okay, like the government works that fast, right on. So I flew home, nothing happened. I self surrendered, and they didn't even know what they were doing. It was just like amateur hour, man. Even like the FBI agents who arrested me, they were like, bro, this is some bullshit. And I was like, yeah, I know it is. Everybody knows it's bullshit. They normally they have this thing where they handcuff you to a wall. And he pulled out his handcuffs. He's like, do I need these for you? And I was like, I was just joking with them the whole time. I was like, I'm not into handcuffs, but if you are, I'm game.
So they take you into custody. Long and short, it gets dismissed. How long did that take to get it dismissed?
Like 4 years and
Jeez.
$300,000 and like
And where
six.
were you? Were you ever locked? Were you able to do it?
Yeah, my initial arrest, I was in the DC gulag for a while until my initial appearance. And they told my mom it'll only take a day. He'll be right out. We're not seeking pretrial confinement. And then they had a debate, and they were like, based off his training, he's a threat to the public. And I was like, dude, we agreed previously that there would be no pretrial confinement. And then they tried
Right.
to say that I had special information. They just wanted to shut me up. And they were they gag ordered me and sealed my discovery. And they were like, they actually retried to arrest me when Tucker Carlson made another video that was filmed pre-indictment. And my
Yeah.
attorney calls me up and she goes, you broke pretrial. Like, as a matter of fact, she's like, you broke your pretrial agreement. You handled a firearm. The U.S. Marshals are on their way to your house in California to arrest you. And I was like, no, I didn't. That was filmed pre-indictment and I was not charged and I was shooting a gun. They took a clip. Tucker Carlson took a clip of me shooting a gun.
Yeah.
So I had to get on the phone with the Fox News producer to talk to my attorney to tell the U.S. Marshals to go away. The level of crap and just straight bias towards J6ers, like,
Yeah.
it really needs to be prosecuted.
Mark, before we leave, I want to touch on that, okay? Because when reading your case and the notes this agent took, it's as if they were tracking the jackal. They were triangulating all this stuff. They're triangulating location.
I met you at a reading, a script read for Robert Morse, who was
Yep.
a second Ranger bat, special operations
y-
operator, who did three and
Yep.
a half years in Afghanistan. And they found a capital, not constructed, capital Lego playset. And they were like, then they branded him the mastermind of J6, like him and Rudy Giuliani and Trump were his apartment in Pennsylvania, being like, I'm going to take Alpha Team, enter the Capitol from here. The fucking thing wasn't even constructed. And then the DOJ had to release a statement being like, oh, yeah, it wasn't constructed. But he was still labeled Lego Man and the mastermind behind J6, and his special operations military training is what led him. Literally like the jackal, like they're going after bin Laden or something. And the dude's
Yeah.
a high school teacher in Pennsylvania who faithfully served our country for 3 combat tours in Afghanistan. And it's like
Wow.
at the highest tier 1 level. So it's like, yeah, and this is what I'm getting at. Like, the DOJ needs to be prosecuted for this. Like, they
It
violated our
was
constitutional rights.
malicious. It
They
was malicious.
outright lied, and like, I had multiple cases, like, where multiple motions where I said this is selective and malicious prosecution because my brother was standing there right next to me with a gun. I'm there with a gun. We're both credentialed agents. We're both DOJ agents, and they didn't go after him. And the reason why they didn't go after him is because they didn't want to open up the can of worms of how many FBI agents were in the crowd. And my brother later got fired by Cash Patel for because my brother went on to go investigate other J6ers. So my brother was at J6 and then investigated other J6ers, and Cash Patel got wind of it and was like, nah, bro.
What a shit show, man. What a mess. What a mess. Well, 4 years later, he gets dismissed. Little son, Levi, you're living in Dallas. What are you? What's next for you? But what is next for you, my friend? Where are you going next?
It's kind of like a God works all things for the good of those who love him and are called to his purpose. I got a beautiful ranch in Texas. I have 2 sons, Levi and Judah. You know, Pastor Ron McCoy, Charlie Kirk's pastor, saved my life. I wasn't in the best mental state, facing 15 years and going to be thrown in prison with a bunch of cartel dudes as a former DEA agent.
Right.
So he hired me as his bodyguard and personal assistant, invested in me, preached the gospel towards me, told me we'll cross that raging river when we get there. He saved my life. So now I run like a ranch in the DFW area for veterans. We have a gun range. We have a gym. It's just we have horses and a place to fish, and it's just really peaceful. We have sheep and emus, and it's just a peaceful place. It's called Strong Father Ranch.
What is it
And
called?
I've helped probably about 15 veterans. It's a pretty intensive. They come live with me or live on the grounds or live close by. And I just mentor them every day because I don't think therapy works for vets and people who've been through combat trauma. I think fellowship works.
Yeah.
So like God really saw this through and saved saved my life and worked it for good. I'm a father of 2 now, and I love ranch life. I love Texas.
Yeah.
I love my constitutional freedoms. But yeah, so if you guys want to follow me or question, DM me at Strong Father Ranch on Instagram. We need as much help as we can get. I'm trying to build a barracks on the property for dudes to stay long term. But yeah, thank God things are going well.
Good, brother. So it's Strong Father Ranch.
No, there's no .com. Just okay, Levi. The horses are out. Thank you. I'll get them. Strong Father Ranch on Instagram.
Got it. And you can be reached on Strong Father Ranch on Instagram.
Yeah.
People can help financially if they want to, and they can reach out to you there and talk to you. Well, Mark, listen, you got your hands full. You got Levi there. The horses are out. I appreciate you. I'm 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 glad that you're better now. I wish you nothing but success. I look forward to talking to you again and see you soon, brother.
Yeah. One more thing. The greatest lesson I learned out of this entire thing
Tell me.
was that if I asked you what the opposite of faith is, people would say doubt. And I don't think that's true. I think the opposite of faith is fear. In the Bible, it says, do not fear like 365 times. And I would encourage you to choose, because faith, you operate a way that's God's plan for your life. Fear, you operate in the satanic way that's Satan's plan for your life. And so I would just say, cast out fear. Do not operate on fear. Don't live your life in fear. Like when I was in Iraq, I didn't mope around, be like, oh man, I could die today. But when I was being prosecuted by the full weight of our government, every day was a struggle to get out of bed and just to move forward because I was afraid of what would happen to me if I went to prison or my kids or this or that. And so for your listeners, fear is satanic worship. Avoid fear at all costs. Live your life by faith. That's the greatest lesson I learned from this. And so anytime I see fear creeping in my life, I just blot it out. I don't listen to it. I don't give it voice. I just trust in the God. I trust in God and I trust in my ability. And he saw me through this. This really is a miracle. My case was dismissed January 2nd. I was going to trial January 23rd.
Wow.
The day before my trial began, my case was dismissed. And I pleaded with God for like 4 years to save me, and he did. Just
God bless
hopefully my
you.
little miracle that God has blessed me with
Yeah.
encourages somebody that's listening. Like suicide takes a bunch of veterans every day. Just, I would just say trust in God, be strong, don't listen to fear. So
Amen,
that's the
brother.
lesson. That's the life lesson I learned from this entire
Thank
effed up
you.
situation.
Bro, I'm glad you're doing better, man. Listen, if you like today's conversation, make sure you followed by God,
Strong
correct?
Father Rand.
Strong Father Ranch. Like, subscribe, follow, share. The information here can resonate with a lot of people. I am Lou Pimber, and thank you for watching today. Talk to you all very soon.